The truth. Wow, the truth. I get comments from people going, "You sure seem angry all the time. You sure seem upset all the time." And that's because you only see me in this 30-minute video, not the other 18 hours of my life during the day. You don't see all the joy and the happiness, and that I feel like I'm the richest person in the fucking world, and I don't even deserve what I have. I feel incredibly fortunate. I'm loved by all the people in my family. I have friends that love me. I have friends that I care about deeply. I, 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 I live where the air is clean. I've done more in my life than most people ever dreamt of doing. Not just risk taking, but accomplishments. Most people aren't aware that me and my team, I believe, saved a vast portion of the east coast of the United States just prior to 3 Mile Island melting down. Huh. This is the problem with having the same remote that runs everything. See my unit over there? I hate that. That's why I don't use CES, because I don't want to hit a remote and have 9 things turn on. This is kind of blurry because I've transferred it a few times. But when I go looking for the truth, it is ugly a lot of times. It's very ugly. And my job is to not come here and be, "Oh, I'm so fucking happy, buy my t-shirt." That's not what I do here. I share my life here. I share my memories. I share my misdeeds, my good deeds. I share the truth. I share the truth of who and what I am, so that over long periods of time, people understand they can trust what I say. Liars are found out rather quickly. Bullshitters are found out even quicker if you have an ear to just listen to what they say, because the fucking story changes every 3 days, okay? I do the video where I talk about getting the Jehovah's Witnesses trapped in here. By the way, the parking lot at the church where they came from is empty. Empty. There might be 3 or 4 cars in there on Sunday. Church right up at the end of my street. They have a cross on their roof. And I asked them, I said, "Do you see that cross on your roof up there? That's a cross with a circle?" And they said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you know what that means?" Well, no, they didn't know what that meant. They didn't know why the circle was there. I said, "That's a pagan cross." Right away, all 3 of them looked at one another. 2 young guys, I figure 22, 23, a young black woman, maybe 17. And they were going to come here and save me in the name of Jesus Christ. I said, "Oh, come on in. I can't wait to talk to you." And the way I have my room set up here is I can stand right here between this chair and that sim racer, or that chair right here. I can stand right here, and they can't get out because this side's blocked. And then I always tell them the joke of 3 men walk into a bar. Now, I believe that this has saved many people, okay? 3 guys walk in a bar. There's 3 of them. I'm still sick. I'm so glad I got my flu and COVID shots, or this would have probably been really bad. We had a person die in the county. Okay. So 3 guys walk in a bar. It's always guys, too. You ever notice that? 3 guys walk in a bar. And I want you to tell me, I'm going to tell you, the bartender knows all 3 of these guys. Okay? And we're going to talk about each person individually. And when you figure out who any of these 3 guys is, then I want you to stop me and you win. And they always agree because they're in a cult. They agree because they're in a cult. You see, they can't think for themselves, and they don't even know that I'm setting them up. Now, you're going to find, if you've been on any of my 5 pages for the last 15 years, that I don't need faith in God because I saw God. I died. And I was shown God. And I can tell you, he's not the jealous little bitch that man's religion has made God out to be. Okay? So let's start the game. So the first guy, the bartender says he was born of a virgin on December 25th, right out of this kid's mouth, right out of his mouth, because he's in a cult. That's Jesus Christ. And so I had to say, well, what makes you say so? Not the date, but because he was born of a virgin. I said, oh, okay. I said, well, let's continue on. His birth, I said, you're wrong. First off, I said, well, you're wrong. Let's continue on. His birth was announced by a star in the east and was attended by 3 wise men. Now they're getting confused and are starting to suspect something. And both of the guys go, that has to be Jesus Christ. And I said, wrong. Let's continue. Now they're getting worried. He was a child teacher in the temple and was baptized when he was 30 by a famous baptizer. He had 12 disciples. Now they're not saying anything. He had 12 disciples and he performed miracles. He walked on water. Let me get rid of this. He walked on water and was transfigured on the mount. They're not guessing anymore. He was crucified, buried in a tomb, and resurrected after 3 days. Now all 3 of them said, well, that has to be Jesus Christ. At that point, usually I won't insist, no, that you're wrong. He was called the way, the truth, the light, the Messiah, God's anointed Son, the Son of Man, the Good Shepherd, the Lamb of God, the Word. He was the fisher and was associated with the lamb, the lion, and the fish. Now they're confused. They feel like, okay, well, what's going on here? You're lying. They're all looking at me like I'm lying. And I said, well, I can prove all this because it's written history by people who wrote history. I said, well, let's just skip to another guy, because the one I described, he's not Jesus Christ. Let's try it again. This is a different guy. So he was born of a virgin on December 25th. He was considered a great traveling teacher and master. He had 12 disciples and he performed miracles. He was buried in a tomb. After 3 days, he rose again. His resurrection was celebrated every year during his principal festival held on what would become Easter. All of them said, that's Jesus Christ. You see, even after me pointing out Horus and all of his attributes, now because they're in a cult, as soon as I said this, no, okay, this one must be Jesus. He was called the Good Shepherd, the Way, the Truth, the Light, the Redeemer, the Savior, the Messiah. He was identified with both the Lion and the Lamb. His sacred day was Sunday. Now, I have to tell him at that point, I said, well, I've kind of pulled your leg, because the third guy, he was born of a virgin too. He performed miracles. He was called the Son of God. He was the son of a carpenter. He was resurrected after dying in 3 days, transfigured on the mount. I said, but none of these 3 guys are Jesus Christ. This was Krishna, Mithra, and Horus. And I said, there were over 20 saviors before Jesus. I said, there's a history before Jesus Christ of Jesus Christ. Born of a virgin on this day. And I said, do you know why all these saviors died and then 3 days were resurrected? And I had to explain to him, the first science that men knew about was some guy was sitting there out probably having a barbecued piece of lamb leg, and he's kicking back, having a little bit of whatever ale he made, and he's looking at this star next to a mountain, and all of a sudden, he realizes, oh shit, that used to be over there, and now it's over here. The very first science. That was the point at which the year was divided into 12. And from that point on, and I told him, that's why you have a circle. That's the quarter of the zodiac. I said, that's a pagan cross on your church. The little girl got down on her knees, and I felt bad, okay? But she's praying to Jesus for me to stop talking. And I just said, look, I care about you as people, and I want you to know the truth. I said, I said, shall we match Bible quotes? I said, I went in and out of the anus of religion. I understand. I went searching for a truth too, for a reason. Had nothing to do with an emptiness in me. It had to do with an uncontrollable desire and urge to explain my death and what I experienced. I said, I died. I saw God. He's nothing like this jealous punk that they talk about in the Bible. I said, there's more murder, rape, and pillaging in the Bible than most books, that the right-wingers want to ban. They learned something that day. When they left, they weren't angry. They weren't mad. They just left. They didn't say anything. They didn't say goodbye. They didn't even say, hope to see you in church this Sunday. They simply left in silence, and I knew what was going on in their heads. I need to find out if what he said is true. That was what I wanted to accomplish. So they could go back and look at all of these other saviors that had the exact same attributes and try to figure out why do they all die and then is resurrected after 3 days. And I explained to them, I said, that's because the sun stops moving for 3 days and then starts to head back the other direction. The sun died and was reborn. They couldn't handle what I was saying. That's why they left in silence. They didn't even have any comebacks. They didn't have the usual snappy, if someone says this is what you say. You know what I mean? None of that. That was all gone. Just like I was deprogrammed from the military, first time I took a hit of weed after being completely brainwashed. One fucking toke, and I was not brainwashed any longer. It's probably why the government's so against weed. One fucking hit, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? With these, why am I letting them going to you misuse my fucking talents? They're brainwashed. People that go and sit in a church and listen to some one fucking guy talk about this is what God meant because they'll read the Bible and they just massacre that fucking thing. They massacre that book. And I can tell you right now, there is not a single fucking preacher in this town that doesn't hate me. Because I made all of them look like fools. They were all together. They all tried to gang up on me in front of about 70 people that were at the DMV for a mutual friend who wanted to start a trailer business. And I destroyed them. I said, you know nothing of the universe God created. I said, the only thing you know is quotes out of this book, and I can quote you for quote, buddy. Any quote you can tell me to prove a point, I can quote you to prove my point. I said, it's just a fucking book of analogies. I said, I died and saw God. Did you see God? Have you ever seen God? The entire crowd was deadly silent. Nobody said a fucking thing. They finally all turned their backs on me and walked away. And one of them looks to Brian. He goes, oh, he's looking for a perfect church, Brian. I just shut up. I should have said, no, I'm not looking for any church, buddy. But I didn't. I just held my mouth. I sat down. I waited. They hauled me in. I did my witness thing. Out I came. He never got his license. I feel it's important to pull people out of these bullshit religions and back to God. The God that will be waiting for us when we transform into our quantum selves. Now, all they have is a fucking book full of quotations. Violence, murder, death, you name it, okay? I said, I can sit you down and show you basic quantum mechanics that will allow for my God to exist. You don't have anything but faith. I said, I don't need faith. I've spent 50 years trying to understand what happened when I died. I said, I have a background in death, trust me. You see, none of them could understand. None of them knew why all of these same attributes. And I said, this is science. This was the first science. And this is how they passed it down, okay? They create these mythologies. Sad. Really, it really is sad. Really is. I don't mean to hurt them, but at the same time, I feel it's my responsibility to tell them my experience in life, which is why I have YouTube pages. I didn't know that until like 20 years ago, but now I do. This is why I have these pages, is so that I can do exactly what I'm doing right now. Talking about my death. I mean, let's take any general story out of the Bible, okay? We'll leave names out of it because I don't want to give any credibility to this, but anyone who reads the Bible or ever read the Bible, Old and New Testament, will understand exactly what I'm talking about. So God tells this guy, who basically I'm seeing him is psychologically fucking damaged, greedy prick who's desperate for a fucking solution to stay in power. And what he says is, oh, well, God told me to take 30 of our most beautiful women and go over to this village over here where they're living peacefully. They've been on the land for 1,000 years. These people are basically farmers. They haven't done a single goddamn thing to us, but we're going to go there with these 30 of our most beautiful women. And I can tell you, Jewish women are just beautiful. Sorry, most of them are beautiful. And the village elders are like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, we want to join your religion. We want to join up with you because we want our sons to marry your daughters. And he says, okay, well, you have to cut your foreskins off. In order to be in the view of God, in order to be in his sight, you need to cut your foreskins off. So the town gets together and does their, I don't imagine all the guys did it in reality. Okay, not every guy would, because it's just a story after all. So these guys all cut their fucking foreskins off, and then that night, the Israelis go in there and murder every man, woman, and child because the guys can't defend themselves. You see, they had to trick them into wounding themselves where they couldn't even fucking walk. And then they went in and killed every man, woman, and child. Now, of course, when they got back to camp, they had to isolate themselves outside of camp because they all had fucking PTSD. Now, is that something God would approve of today? If I said, oh, these guys over here, they don't believe, they're Muslims. They don't believe in God the way we do. Let's go trick them so that we can murder them all and take their shit. Yeah, religions for me, I despise all religions. I fucking despise all religions. It's the bane of mankind, okay? Because the God that I experienced when I died was nothing like what men create. Amoebas, bacteria, fungus. That's the kind of God they would create. That's about as advanced as we are compared to God. Okay? So I don't really enjoy making this video, but I feel it's necessary because just like those 3 young kids, They had no idea what was coming, and it just hit them in the face like a ton of bricks. And I felt bad after they left, but only for a little while, because I understood I put that little tiny little piece of doubt in their mind. I don't know what they're doing today, but I can tell you that the church that they were up there are gonna start their new church in this building, and that fucking parking lot's empty on Sunday. Also, it's an extremely dangerous fucking exit out of that place. Okay, I'm surprised more people aren't killed right there, because it's a very steep hill like this, and their driveway is just over the crest. So when you pull out, you got people coming over this fucking hill at 40 miles an hour. I had a friend that was killed up there, knocked him right out of his shoes. Okay, well, I got that off my chest today. Did my duty.